All right, thanks for checking me out. This is your man Kdot. Today is Tuesday, August the 22nd, and I usually come in here on an early morning. This time we got a late morning recording going, but I do want to touch on some things around the sports world that I saw and was able to check out this past weekend. I've been busy too, so I'm glad I'm able to take some time and record real quick. I want to touch on the NFL first. Obviously, we're still in the preseason, and all of the teams are playing their preseason games. Um, and for the most part, I'm not very interested in the results of those games. I do check them out just to kind of see what the teams are looking like and things of that sort. So I did get a chance to watch the highlights of the games. I don't really watch them live, but I do want to see the highlights and kind of see some of the things that are going on the field, if anything interesting. Um, I will say this: I watched a little bit deeper the Patriots versus Texans preseason game, and I thought that was a really entertaining game. Um, I don't know how serious the Patriots take the preseason games. When you got Tom Brady as your quarterback, he's a pretty serious player, so I imagine they take it somewhat seriously. And he was in there longer than I expected. Um, but the Texans played pretty good. They got an interception on Brady. They got one on Garoppolo when he came in the game. Foreman, their tailback, looked really terrific. I don't know if he's going to start or have an opportunity to start, but he looked really good. If he's not starting, I'm sure he'll get some good time um, in the backfield. At tailback this year. Watson, the rookie quarterback for the Texans, looked sharp. I thought he was solid. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and he brought this up, and I told him I was going to mention it, that he definitely should. And my friend is of the opinion, and so am I. They should have been the top quarterback that was picked. It was very interesting that he wasn't. Kind of suspicious. We'll see how it turns out. Just based off his college career and based off, playing top-notch competition like Alabama in the championship game the last 2 years and really performing well. And obviously in this past year, winning the college championship for Clemson. And then he came out the draft and they got Trubisky picked. They got Mahomes, drafted by the Chiefs from Texas Tech. And I'm looking like, wow, you pass it over Watson. Maybe Watson might not be as good a quarterback as them. If that's the case, I'm going to be shocked. There was no clear-cut, number one quarterback. When you look at your Jameis Winston's or Andrew Luck, stuff like that, you sometimes, there's a slam dunk number one quarterback. Cam Newton, whatever. In this case, since there wasn't one, I was surprised that not that Watson wasn't the number one overall pick, but that he wasn't the top quarterback that was selected. We'll get into that more. But I thought he looked good. It was an entertaining game for the most part. I thought that the Chiefs looked tremendous. They was ready for the regular season. The Chiefs was running all over the place, both sides of the ball, in their preseason game against the Bengals. And the Bengals are terrible. If I'm Bengals, I'm so glad the preseason ain't over if I'm a Bengals fan. Like that, we got a couple games to get this together because they were awful. And they're a team that has been good, over the past, several years. They've been either in the playoffs or in the playoff mix. So they've had, at least some regular season success. And they look like they should be right in the mix to be good again. But, that was a bad game. And bad games happen, even in the regular season. So you don't read too much into it, but it didn't look good. Broncos looked terrific. I saw how they played against the 49ers. And, even though they missed the playoff last year, they won a Super Bowl a couple seasons ago, and they're expected to be right back in the mix. And that division, when you consider the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Raiders, who were really good last year also, they look like it might be the best division. And then you got the Chargers that just made the move to Los Angeles. Appear to be the bottom feeder team in the division this year. But we'll talk more about that as we get closer to the season. Another game I saw, the Bears against the Cardinals. That was good. I mean, that's about as good as preseason football is going to get. It wasn't a regular season game, but it had some good entertainment value. I just saw both teams just making plays, and then I saw the Cardinals go for a field goal. It was like a 63-yard field goal, and Thompson, the guy from the Bears, caught it and ran it all the way. I mean, caught it in the back of the end zone, almost stepped out of bounds. I mean, he was as back to the end zone as you can possibly be without being out of bounds, and ran it back 109, I think, official yards, but like 109, maybe like 3/4. So like he was almost out of bounds. He stepped back, caught it, and then ran it back. That was really exciting. And then the Cardinals came back. They scored a touchdown at the end of the game, and they said, they was down by one. It's like, no, we're going for the 2 points. And it's the preseason, so you kind of see that more often than you would in a normal regular season or even playoff game. But I hope that more teams do that, like in a row regular season and in the playoffs. Like, man, forget this overtime. We're going for this 2-point play. We're going to win it right here. I hope more teams do that. It didn't work out for the Cardinals. It don't really matter. It was preseason. But in the regular season, I hope teams do go for two. I like the aggressive calls. I like the teams take a rest and just say, you know what, forget overtime. Where it could go either way. And a lot of people complain that the coin toss decides overtime a lot of time. Now, since both teams get a chance to get the possession in most overtimes nowadays, that's not as big of a deal, but still, sometimes you don't even want to take the risk. Go for two. So I saw that. Oh, and another thing, the Raiders have an announcer. I believe her name is Beth Mullins. Forgive me if I don't get the name right. But they have a female announcer. I thought that was really, really cool. I'd heard her before. I think she does college football as well. But I'd never seen a female announcer do an NFL game before. I thought that was awesome. And she was really, I listened, and she was really good. Sounds just like any other announcer, in terms of her professionalism and able to call the game. And I hope I get a chance to hear her more often. I do actually appreciate listening to the, whether it's the play-by-play or the color commentators, in sports. I think they should be a part of the game. They add to the game when you have your facts and you have stories and you call the game in an exciting way. So I really enjoyed hearing that. That was something different. I had never heard that before. I'm sure to say her first game she ever announced, but that was the first time I heard a female do an NFL game as a broadcast. That was really cool. So I saw that. We know really the biggest story that's been surrounding the NFL and really sports and maybe our entire society in general has, been, political, and the stances on how players feel about the politics. And I've touched on this in some of my previous recordings, and just about the injustice, the social injustices that have been going on. Obviously, Colin Kaepernick started really what has turned into a movement of sorts. Certainly something that's been impactful. And although he's no longer on the field at this particular time, and there's no way of knowing if he ever get another chance to play, it's great to see that other players have stepped in and have been willing to take a knee or not salute the flag as well to kind of continue the conversation that Kaepernick started. I think it's incredible, and I mentioned this before, and it happened like I predicted that that's going to be a thing. They're going to be paying attention. The cameras are going to be looking for other players to see who salutes the flag, who doesn't. If there are any other players that haven't done it before that may start doing it. The ones that have done it, will they continue? Things of that sort. And we had that going on. Michael Bennett from the Seahawks. You saw Malcolm Jenkins from the Eagles had the fist raised. Marshawn Lynch, obviously from the Raiders, remained seated. And things I saw, but what we saw this week that I didn't see a whole lot before was some of the Caucasian players coming to support. You saw the support from the Caucasian player, Michael Bennett. You saw Derek Carr, who's a star player. Now you got a star player that's supporting. He came in to support with Khalil Mack with the Raiders. And then you saw, and another thing that was really cool was, Michael Jenkins. He had support from Chris Long, who I talked about last week, because he, really weighed in heavily on the Charlottesville situation in Virginia. But he supported, Michael Jenkins. And then also they said that it inspired one of the Bills players on the other side of the field to raise his fist also. I thought that was really cool. Um, and so you could see the inspiration going on, and other players starting to look and say, hey, you know what? I like what's going on. Now, I want to be a part of it too. Um, the big winners of that was the Cleveland Browns. I think they were on Monday Night Football, and the Browns, we know, have been a pitiful franchise. And they actually, I think, won the game. They beat the Giants on the football field. But the big win was on the sidelines. And they had, I think, either 11 or 12 players that gathered in a circle and they kneeled during the national anthem. And that was incredible. I think that's the most players I've seen kind of do it together. Maybe there has been others, but that's the first time I've seen that display. And I'm talking about in terms of the protests. We've seen players huddle for prayer and things of that sort, but not in this type of way like during the national anthem. And that was really awesome. Kudos to the Cleveland Browns for that. And one of the players, I believe his name is Seth DeValve. I don't know if I got his name right, but he was a Caucasian player that was right in there in the circle with the rest of the players. And he was the first Caucasian, I believe, that has taken a knee and not saluted the flag. We've had some that were like supporting the African American players, but he was the first that I had saw to take a knee. So kudos to him for that. And word is that he has a African American wife, biracial children, things of that sort. So he is aware. He's aware of what's going on. He wanted to support his African American teammates, and he's aware that his children are going to be brought up in such a way that they may be subject to some of the same injustices, as any other African American have been, and minorities in general that have been subject to. So he was on that. I thought that was incredible. And again, the momentum is moving. I just think that as time goes on, the momentum is going to continue to pick up, and there's going to be more and more people to do it. Now, I hope it comes a time that everybody does it, or almost everybody does it. I mean, look, coaches can get involved. It could be anybody. Referees, this thing can really pick up some steam, and I hope it does. I hope coaches get in there, referees, whoever. There's no saying whether that's actually going to happen, but I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for it, and I just hope more players do it. I hope it picks up steam around the NFL. It's starting to increase from preseason the first game to preseason second game. It's increasing now. Let's see what happens as we continue the rest of the preseason and then right on into the regular season. I don't think it's going to go down. I think it's going to go up, if not at least remain the same. But I think it's going to go up in terms of the number of people that are participating and the more diversity they have in the participation versus just African American players. Now we got African American players with the support of some Caucasian players. Now we got African American players with the support of Caucasian players and Caucasian player, that joined in. So the next thing could be a referee, it could be a coach, whoever. So I think that the more diversity they have in that, the more powerful it would be, to the point where change can happen. I hope it causes for Kaepernick to be able to return to the field as well. So that's my thoughts on that. I thought that was great. I enjoyed watching that, and I expect it to continue, and I hope it does. I want to shift a little bit over to the NBA just for a few minutes. And obviously, they're in the off season, and most of the talk has been about transactions and trades and free agency and players, trading teams or joining teams or whatever. One of the things I saw is that apparently the Indiana Pacers have already filed for like a tampering charge against the Los Angeles Lakers as it pertains to Paul George. Now, the news just recently came out, maybe a couple of days ago, but I believe that the Pacers filed way back months ago. So it's not that they just filed, because the timing seems kind of weird. I'm like, why would the Pacers just file for that now? They already done traded, and Paul George don't even play for them anymore. But apparently they had been filed months ago while George is still on the team. And apparently they're accusing the Lakers of having some inappropriate conversation, Magic Johnson or whoever, getting in touch with Paul George, which is against the rules since he's under contract with another team. The Lakers are denying it as you would expect they would, and I don't know what's going to come of it. They say if you get uh, convicted or whatever of tampering, that you'll have a big fine, millions of dollars, lose a draft pick, whatever. So whatever those penalties are, I don't expect that anything's going to come of this. I don't expect that the Lakers are going to be found guilty. And you know what? If so, I think what the NBA is going to do is something minimal, maybe a fine. I don't think they're going to charge them a draft pick or charge them anything serious that's going to affect the franchise. If it's a fine in terms of money, the Lakers are really, really financially stable, so they're not going to, it's not going to be a big deal, and it's not going to put a stain on the franchise or anything like that. They got Magic Johnson in here who's trying to establish himself, being the president, and they got Lonzo Ball, who they just drafted, who won't have anything to do with this. So the focus is going to be on the court and, the franchise trying to move forward and improve, because they're like, they're in a bad way. These have been like the worst time for the Lakers franchise ever, if you're a Lakers fan. Another thing I saw, quick story, NBA 2K18 video game is popular. I've played it. I like it. The 2K in general series, and now 18 is coming out in a couple of months. When by the time the season starts, and the ratings are coming out. The game developers put a rating for the players, and players have been usually like taking it personal and not happy with their ratings and stuff like that. I saw one of the NBA players, LaVoy Allen, that he plays for the Pacers, and I think he was rated like a 75, and he's like, yeah, they rated me too high. And I thought that was really cool. I don't know if he really meant it or, if he was just joking, but I miss all the players taking it so personally and upset that they aren't rated as high as they think they should. I mean, I think all players think they're going to be a 98 or 99. It's like, are you LeBron James? I don't think LeBron was rated a 99. I think LeBron might be coming at like a 96 or 97. So if he's not there, where do you think you're supposed to be at? So I just think that's really weird that players take it so personally. It's a video game, first of all. And then secondly, the other thing is, if you actually play the video game, which I do, is that the rating that a player has never actually stays exactly at that. Players' ratings go up as the seasons go along. As the season goes along, you get, training points or whatever it is, or experience points, and the ratings fluctuate all through the game. You get to the prime of your career, your rating goes up. You get down to the later stage of your career, your rating goes down. Just like generally your play goes down towards the end of your career. We know that. You're at the end of your career, you're not at your prime anymore. You're not playing at your peak, so you're not going to have that high rating. Your rating is going to decrease as your career, moves towards the end. That's how it goes. But so whatever your rating is coming into the game, it's nothing to make a big deal about. It's going to go up or down or whatever, fluctuate based on, how your career progresses. So I don't think it's certainly not a big deal. And I'm just surprised these $1 million athletes get so caught up in the game. And I thought LaVoy Allen, just took a lighter approach to it and didn't make a big deal about it. So I thought that was really cool. One more thing. I saw David Fizdale. Shout out to him, the head coach for the Memphis Grizzlies. And it was a picture of him, and he had a quote, and he was talking about them removing the Confederate, like the historical statues in Memphis. I guess similar to what they did in Charlottesville, in Virginia. He wants them to do it down in Tennessee. And I didn't really think. Actually, I really didn't think a whole lot about, that catching on with the removal of the statues or removal of some of the historical figures. Once Charlottesville did, but it was great. The quote was incredible, and just seeing a man go out there and say, "Hey, listen, they don't gotta just be in Charlottesville. The city that I'm in, the city that I'm coaching in, they can get rid of these Confederate statues also." Obviously, Memphis, famously where Dr. King was assassinated, and some of that history or whatever, some of those maybe black eyes on a place like Memphis, need to be taken down. I mean, it's not going to be forgotten or necessarily erased, but we could definitely take a move in the right direction. And Charlottesville had something that they did, which I think was great, and I hope they do it in Memphis and wherever else. I just like the fact that Coach Fizdale um, brought it to the attention of those who was watching. It definitely caught my attention, and I hope it catch like the city officials' attention, and to the point where they feel as though, you know what, we can remove some of the stuff also, and take a stance and do something that will really catch the eyes of a lot of people and show some progress and some growth in our society, especially in the day and times that we're in, particularly politically, where a lot of people have strong opinions. I hope that they don't decide to do, oh my God, I hope they don't decide to do one of those marches or whatever with the white supremacy. I hope they don't do that in Memphis. That would be, or anywhere else. That would be awful. But I just think that we should continue to move in a positive direction and just continue to progress as a society, And I like the way athletes and sports figures, Coach Fizdale and others, are willing to weigh in and give their opinions and takes a stance. The ones that are taking a stance. There's so many of them that are not, but the ones that are, kudos to them. I think it's great that they're supporting what's right. What's right. I mean, it's bigger than black or white or African American or minority or Caucasian. It's bigger than that. Although that's a big deal. When you think about just life, you think about the quality of life. When you think about, just people having a chance of living here in the society that we live in and be treated fairly and appropriately, that's what the big deal is. And that's what this is all about. That's what the conversation has been about. That's what the protests and the not saluting the flag and all this has been about. So I'm expecting for that to continue. I hope it continues. I support it. I salute it. And I just hope that the change can really, really continue we could progress towards a big, big change, whether it be of the laws, the treatment, anything that will allow for myself to not be put in that situation, for my future children to not be put in that situation, for my family to not be put in that situation. So kudos to all those. And more to talk about the next time I'm on. Around sports, I do want to talk about some boxing, possibly, maybe some other things that are going on. We got some boxing that's been happening, obviously upcoming. So I'll get into that more. And thanks for tuning in. Peace and love.